In this video, we will cover what is decorators in AngularJS, what are the types of decorators, and how we can use them in our AngularJS application.
Hello friends, welcome to our channel WaveTutorials, and you are watching AngularJS full tutorial session. And also I request you to, if you have still not subscribed to our channel, then please subscribe to it and don't forget to click on that notification bell icon so that you will get the notification whenever we upload a new video on this channel. Also, if you found the content of our video is valuable, then please like the video, and in case of any query you can write a comment in comment box. So let's start with today's session.
What is decorator in Angular? Decorators are the features of TypeScript and are implemented as functions. Decorator starts with prefix of symbol following by brackets and arguments. Decorators are actually a function that add metadata to class, its member or method arguments, and decorator are invoked at runtime. Angular offers four main types of decorators: class decorator, property decorator, method decorator, and parameter decorator. So let's discuss about them one by one with practical sessions. So first one is class decorator. Class decorator in Angular are the top level decorators that we use to express intent for classes. Class decorator tell Angular that a particular class is a component or module. For example, we have few common decorators listed here like @component, which declares that a class is a component and provide metadata about the component. @ng-module, which define it's a module that contain component, directives, pipes, and providers. So we already created a videos about module and components. So if you have still did not watch them, so please watch our previous videos in this tutorial session. @injectable, which declare that a class has dependencies that should be injected into the constructor when the dependency injector is creating an instance of this class. So mainly that injectable decorator is used with the services. So we will discuss about services in detail in our upcoming sessions. @directive. This declare a class that it's a directive and provide metadata about that directive. @pipe. It declares that this class is a pipe and provide metadata about the pipe. So let's open Visual Studio Code. So first of all, let's create a simple TS file like so let's make a class here, class test, and also make its constructor. So this file is now a simple class. So first of all, let's export it so that other class or modules can import it. Now whenever we type the name of the decorator, like first of all let's type component, and inside this component you can define your metadata information. So by adding the keyword @component, this test class becomes a component class. So if I change it from component to ng-module, now this class become a module. So the same way, by changing its decorator, you can simply convert a class to any of the decorator, either component class, module, directive, pipe, etc. So let's open terminal window. Before this, let me show you, we already have default component, and you can see here @component, which define that this app component is a component class. And the same way, app.module is decorated with @ng-module, which defines that this app module is a module. So the same way, if we create a services, so let's type the command ng generate service, the name of the service like login. So if I press enter, this will create a service with a directive @injectable. So you can see that here we have created a service. You can see the keyword dot service. So if I open it, you can see that it's decorated with @injectable. So the same way, if I create directive ng generate directive like compare name. So we have created a compare name directive which is decorated with @directive. The same way, if I create ng generate pipe with name custom case, we have created a pipe and it's decorated with @pipe directive. So you can see that class decorators tell Angular that a particular class is a component or module. So let's move to the next slide. Next one is property decorator. Property decorator allow us to decorate specific properties within our classes. For example, we have two type of property decorator. One is input and another one is output. Input declare an input property that you can update via property binding, and it is used to transfer data from parent component to child component. And output declare an output property that fire event that you can subscribe to within an event binding, and it is used to transfer data from child component to parent component. So let's open Visual Studio Code and use both the properties in our project. Let's create a new child component. And also open our browser. Let's execute the ng sub command. Okay, let's add our child component in our parent component. So let's make app component as our parent component and use a child component here. So let's copy its selector app-child and make it a child component under app.component. So let's make some HTML and style sheet changes here. So let's create a div and apply a class to it. And write a text here like child component. Also let's apply some style sheet here. Create a class here like child. So let's apply a few styles here, like I already typed styles. Save it. You can see that this area is of child component and rest of the area are from the parent component. So first of all, let's use @input decorator where we're required to pass data from parent component to child component. So first of all, let's open our parent component, which is app component, and declare a variable here like parent message and pass your message here. Message from parent component. Save it. And now let's pass this parent message to a variable which can be used by child component. So for this, let's open HTML of parent component and here declare a variable like message and pass your variable from parent component, parent message. Now we have to use this variable to display the message from parent component on child component. So let's copy it, open source file of child component, and here we need to import input from Angular code, and here we need to declare input decorator, the name of the variable and its type. Now we have received the message from parent to child component. So the next step is to display the message on page. So before this, let's save all the files. Check this message and let's print it here using interpolation. Save the file. You can see that in our child component now we are displaying the message we received from parent component. So here in parent component we write this message from parent component, which is displayed in child component here. So the same way we can use the output decorator. So the output decorator is used to pass the message from child to parent. So for this we need to use an event emitter class. So let's open child component source file so that we can pass message from child component to parent component. So first of all, let's import output decorator, also event emitter. Now let's use output decorator here. And create an object of event emitter class. Let's create a message which we need to transfer from child component to parent component. So let's create this variable and pass this message. Also, you need to emit this message from child component to parent component so that parent can receive this message. So for this we have to write this dot the name of the event emitter and emit it with the message this dot message from child. Save it. Here is we have an error there. Did you mean output? The O should be in uppercase. So let's save it again. So let's open our source file of our parent component so that we can receive that message. Let's create a method show message and pass a variable here. This message is going to print the message which we received from child component. So let's also create a local variable here and pass the received message in this variable. Now the next step is to pass this message from child component to parent component. So for this we need to open HTML of app component where we called the child component and pass this message from here. Here we need to call an event which we created in child component file, this one, and assign this to our method which we have created here to receive the message. And pass dollar $event so that our message will get transferred from child component to parent component. Let's save it. And here we received the message in this variable. So let's display this variable here. Let's create another div with class content. And use this variable to display in this HTML file. Let's save it. So you can see that the message we have received here in parent component from child component. So here we type this message from child component, which is now displayed in our parent component. Still, if you have did not clear with the concept of property decorator, don't worry about that. I will create a separate video on it where I will detailed about input and output parameter with few other scenarios as well. You can get the link in description for that video. So let's move to the next slide. The third type of decorator is method decorator. So method decorators are similar to property decorators but used for method instead. This allows us to tell Angular that when an event on our host happens, we want the decorated method to be called with the event. So we have two types of method decorators in Angular. One is host binding and another one is host listener. Host binding lets you to set properties on the element or component that hosts the directive, and host listener lets you listen for event on the host element or component. Host binding and host listener is a big topic. I will create a separate video in detail, but for now let's see few basic things about that. So let's open Visual Studio Code. To test host binding and host listener, we have to create directive. So you can also use it without creating a directive, but for now I'm using directive to show you the example of host binding and host listener. If you do not know about what is directives, then please watch our video. You can get the link in description below. So let's open the new terminal and create a new directive. Ng generate directive and then name of the directive styling div. So let's press enter. So we have created the directive. Here you can see that it's created with the name styling-div.directive.ts and its selector name is app styling div. So we can also rename it to, let's rename it to styling div. So before this, let's open browser by using ng sub command. Let's adjust the window. So here what we are going to do is we will change the color of this text on click, and the host listener will help us to listen the event which is a click event, and host binding will change its property and change its color to whatever the color we required to change. So let's first of all open the directives. Here you can see that directive is decorated with the keyword @directive and its selector name is styling div. So first of all, let's import host binding and host listener from Angular core. And then now let's type host binding and bind color style here, style dot color, and assign it to a variable bg color. Now let's write listener host listener and listen for a click event, and assign it to a method click method. And in this variable bg color assign the color, let's say it blue, save it. And now we have to use this styling div directive on our div element. So let's open app.component html where we write this message and apply directive here like this. And so also let's increase its font size a little bit. Let's move it to h3 and save it. You can see that here we have message. If I click it, its color will get changed to blue. Why? Because our host listener received its click event. So here you can see that when I click it, it assigned the bg color as a to blue, and host binding set its property which is a color property. The same way you can also assign multiple host binding and host listener. So let's see one another example of host listener here. Like the same way you can assign mouse over event here and set its color to red. And let's also create an event for mouse out, and on mouse out let's change its color to green, save it. And you can see when I mouse over it, its color changed to red. When mouse out, its color changed to green, and when I click, its color changed to blue. That's because of the host listener is listening for our events and the host binding is changing its property. So this is the basic example of how host listener and host binding will work. So let's move to the next slide. The fourth decorator is parameter decorator. Parameter decorators allow us to decorate parameters in our class constructor. For example, let's say @inject. It's a manual mechanism for letting Angular know that a parameter must be injected. So let's open Visual Studio Code and see a basic example for this. So let's first close this browser, maximize this, close all the screens, and let's open another terminal window and create a service here. So let's type a command to create a service, ng generate service, the name of the service like test service, and press enter. So if you don't know about services, then please check our link in description and you will get the detailed knowledge about what are the services in AngularJS. So we have created a service like test.service. So let's open it. As you can see that it's decorated with the keyword @injectable. So now we have to also assign this service in our root module in this provider section. Also we have to import it. Now let's open where we need to inject this service. So for this, let's open this app component and inject our newly created service. So for this, we have to use @inject decorator, and let's pass the name of the service, test service. So we have also need to import this service here. So we have imported the service, and also we need to create a variable for this service like test service, and also let's display it in console. So that we can check that a full object of the service in this component. Let's save it. You can see that project is successfully compiled, and let's open the browser. Let's adjust this window a little bit, and let me open the inspect element console. Let's clear it, reload it, and you can see that test service, the object of test service is here. The concept of services and dependency injection is a very big topic, and we will cover this in some other video, and you will get the link in the description of this video. So let's move to the next slide. So we have covered in this session all the decorators, their types, and their detailed description with practical session. In case of any of your query, you can write a comment in comment box, or you can also write to me at wavetutorial@outlook.com. I also request you to, if you still have not subscribed to our channel, then please subscribe to it, and also follow WaveTutorials at linkedin.com. My name is Naveen, and thank you for watching this tutorial.